Welcome, my emerging expat. You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm producer Dan, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you YouTube travelers and our resident Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kalie. Each week, they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, join Josh, Kalie, and Dylan from Portugal the Simple Life as they explore the ins and outs of expat life on the Silver Coast, sharing invaluable insights into the simplicity, safety, and beauty of living in Portugal. Discover the transformative journey of moving abroad, the evolving Portuguese real estate market, and the essence of community. Stick around.
Hey, expats and travelers, welcome back to Expats Everywhere presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast. Kalie, how we doing?
The question, doing well. Excited about this because we've just finished our Italian road trip where we featured different Italian cities and we compared them to different Portuguese cities. So now we are back with our interviews, back in the studio. If you can see us, if you're watching.
AKA the living room.
Yeah, but we have our nice sign here in the living room for those of you who are actually watching this instead of just listening. Yeah. So we're back, quote unquote, in the studio.
Yeah, and we're excited to bring you an episode from a guy who's producing a ton of content, at least podcast format content, about living in Portugal. And we're going to dive deeper into Portuguese lifestyle and conversations with different people and personalities that Dylan, our guest, has made. He's called Portugal home for quite a while now. And like I said, he is the host of Portugal the Simple Life podcast.
Right.
Which is a podcast that we appeared on not long ago.
Yes. So you'll definitely have to go over and check out his podcast. We talked to him and he's got a lot of fun guests featuring different people. But as far as he's a foreigner, right? But he's been in Portugal for quite a while, married to a Portuguese, has kids. Yep. So really has assimilated into the culture. Mingles with the locals, I guess you could say, really Absolutely. Gets into it, has learned the language.
Well, he's also had a lot of interesting people on his podcast that are Portuguese.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of where it differs between what we do and what he does. He does have foreigners.
Obviously, we were on it.
on his podcast, but he'll speak to a Portuguese author or an athlete or maybe politician. He might have had maybe former politicians he's had on there. But yeah.
Yes, that's really interesting because it gives you a different look into Portugal, obviously, compared to who we talk to and what we do, because we give the more expat type, what's it like moving, what's it like living here. But he's actually speaking with Portuguese people who have, maybe never left or have done something big for Portugal. So yeah, it's a fun podcast.
Yeah, people that can give an insight into the culture the way that a Portuguese, a local could versus what a foreigner can say.
Right. But before we get to that, let's give an update on how things are going with us. What have we been up to?
Yeah. So yesterday we had an awesome meetup at Fino Golf Club in Matosinhos. Big shout out to Tam and Christina for hosting us there. Actually, we hope that we're able to tell their story at some point, whether it be on the podcast or be on the channel. But they are from California. They moved to Matosinhos. They got maybe a little bored and decided to start a business. They didn't move to Portugal to start a business, but they ended up starting a screen golf business. So they hosted us there. Phenomenal location, facilities, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a great space.
They've got a bar in the front, like a little lounge actually in the front, then a bar in the middle, and then the screen golf stuff kind of to the back third or half of the building.
With like couches and tables and stuff. So, I'm
nice.
not a golfer. I'm not a golfer.
Neither am I.
We got some funny pictures and videos last night because it was fun. They let us test it out. But it's fun. It's a fun social thing. And obviously, for us, it's familiar because it's big in Korea. So when we lived in Korea, it was a thing that you did, that you went out with friends, you'd have drinks, you'd do screen golf, and it was just a fun activity.
We didn't do well.
No.
Even back then.
No, of course not.
But we did it.
But it's fun. It's a social thing.
Yes.
So it was an exciting place to have the meetup, to have people just, socializing and playing golf if they want. I mean, there were some people there that knew what they were doing.
Yes.
For sure.
You could see the way they swung the club.
Yeah, their swing. Wow. So that's fun. So if you haven't checked out their location, it's fun for a hangout for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's a group of 2 or 4 people that go and you don't play golf, you just go have a drink there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they screen live sports and stuff like that. They've got all the sports channels. So That's nice.
Yeah, we'll probably do a meetup there again at some point.
I hope so.
It was good.
I hope so.
It was a lot of fun.
What else going on this week? Well, we actually got asked a lot yesterday about the vertical community and how the building project is going. I think everybody I talked to ended up asking me.
Curious.
So I wanted to get that information to you as well. We have a slight delay because of an asbestos discovery when demolition started. So demolition started, and then they found it, and then you have to wait to have it safely removed. So there's a small section that we have applied for safe removal. We should have that this week, and then demolition will continue, and we will hopefully have a video out soon about that process and just the first episode of Let's Get Building with Josh and Kalie on that new YouTube channel.
Right. So the asbestos, it was not a surprise. They were pretty sure they were going to find it for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, just having to remove it safely is where we're at. So that'll be out of the way soon. And then, like you said, we can continue with the demolition. But on the channel right now, it's just people getting caught up on how we found the property and what that search was like.
Yeah.
So it's actually a playlist.
It links back to the main
regular channel
right now.
Right. So yes, we're hoping very soon. We've been compiling some footage to put out that first video. I know people are really waiting to see me with that sledgehammer.
We're waiting, honestly.
I know.
We're waiting. We're really anticipating that first video. What else is going on this week? Okay, so huge soccer match that's happening in the city. Especially big for us because it's actually our favorite team in the world, Arsenal FC, taking on FC Porto. And so it's like our two teams colliding. Basically, we're taking a positive outlook and say, we win. Either way, we win. Either our Portuguese team goes on in the competition and we continue to watch matches from our home seat, like at the stadium, or Arsenal wins and they continue on, and truly that's our favorite team. So
are you allowed to say that?
I am. I
you don't want to shock too many people. Okay.
I say the truth.
You speak the truth.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's tomorrow. So that's exciting. And then on Friday we head to Spain.
We do, which I'm really excited about. I was actually pushing Sia in the stroller this morning, and as we were going up the hill, I said, Valencia, that on Friday we're going to have to wake up really early and we're going to the airport. And she goes, are we going to a new country? And I said, actually we are. Yeah, because we're going to pass through Gibraltar. So we're going from Sevilla to Soto Grande. And then when we go back to Sevilla to fly out, we're going to go to Gibraltar. So I told her how small the country was and everything. And it was funny.
Yeah. So adding to the list, we're in the stages of going to the different micronations around Europe, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, we've done all the bigger stuff, so now it's like we're finding the Liechtensteins, Monacos, Luxembourgs.
And Gibraltar is not very easy to get to, so especially from Porto. I've not seen a direct flight.
San Marino.
Another one. That's where we just were.
Yeah.
So it works out well because we've got. What we're really excited about is we've got a company that we're going to be working with. We're going to put a few videos out with. They can help people. A lot of people have been asking, I think recently, with all the changes in Portugal, with NHR changing, and of course the golden visa and the different visas that have split D78. People are wondering, is Portugal still for me? Can I still do it? Can I afford it? But is it still for me? And so we're going to be working with this company who helps with those who are still interested in Portugal, but then they also help with those who are interested in Spain and other European countries and what that route looks like as far as visas, maybe investments. So we're excited to kind of diversify a little bit as people are asking us for more information outside of Portugal.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll do some videos with them. We'll have a little fun, do a little work, see a new country, and then be back next week. And get that stuff
I'm
out.
looking forward to that, and also looking forward to the conversation with Dylan.
Yeah.
So I chatted with him about what drove him to start his podcast, and he tells some stories from his guests and gives his perspective on really how to enjoy Portugal the Simple Life, the joys of Portugal the Simple Life, and he kind of goes into what things maybe people should consider making their move, and he also, it's not his full-time job, so he kind of shares what he does as his full-time work, which kind of is connected to his podcast in a way. But yeah,
it's kind of a different experience in the sense that you get to see the culture from a foreigner, but someone who's been here for quite a long time and who's
is ingrained.
And yeah, because of his family and knowing the language and being here for so long. So he gives you a feel for the culture in a different way that some other expats who've only been here for a couple of years and live in different locations, because he lives more local, like not a big city, right?
Yep. And before we jump into it, if we could ask you if you enjoy these episodes and like this type of stuff, and you know some other people that might enjoy it, if you could share the episode with them, whether it be if you find this on YouTube or you're listening to it in a podcast form, if you can just share it with people, that would be really great. If you have any questions that you want answered as well, email us at podcast@expatseverywhere.com, and producer Dan will compile those questions, and then we'll do an episode where we answer the questions, or we might actually just ask one of those questions to a podcast guest.
Right. Yeah, we can have people on who would be experts about certain questions if we get a lot of the same question or something.
Yeah. So make sure that you connect with us on our social medias, and
you can find the podcast on our website as well. You can follow and like everything, all the social medias, and listen to this however you want.
All right. Without further ado, let's chat with Dylan. Dylan, what a way to start here. We are with a veteran of living in Portugal and the host of Portugal the Simple Life, a podcast that Kalie and I were able to be on as well. Dylan, how you doing?
Very well. Thank you, Josh. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you located right now?
So I'm on the Silver Coast. Our studio is in a town called Foz do Aurélio, which is, if you know Abidos Lagoon, it's the entrance of Abidos Lagoon. It's really, really beautiful. This is a wallpaper behind me, so I'm not in the street or anything.
Yeah, you're blocking traffic right now.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm based on the Silver Coast. I've been here since 2009. I live near to Abidos Castle and Caldas da Rainha, and my offices are in São Martinho de Porto. So yeah, here since the beginning, fell in love with this area from day one, and been in the Silver Coast ever since.
Nice. Well, what made you fall in love with it?
Josh, I mean, I'd made the decision to move to Portugal, and then it was a case of, okay, where? And I'd lived in Johannesburg my whole life, so I didn't really want to be in a big city. And it might sound cheesy, but the place just felt right for me from day one. I still remember very, very clearly, like it was yesterday, seeing, so where our offices are, where I work, is a town around a bay called São Martinho de Porto. It's a shell-shaped bay. And just seeing that for the first time, and then just the whole feel of the place, it felt to me like a real authentic Portuguese location, which it is, and it has been ever since. And I wanted to be somewhere that felt like Portugal. I wanted to be somewhere that felt safe. I wanted to be somewhere that still had that authentic Portuguese way of life with, farmers markets and traditional restaurants and cafes and bakeries. And from day one, it just felt really, really good. I've lived in a number of areas on the Silver Coast, like Nazaré and Alfezarão, São Martinho de Porto as well, and now near to Abidos, in a little village, 200 people maybe, where, you literally when you walk to the local cafe, everyone stops and has a chat and greets the kids, and your neighbors, and it's just a wonderful place to live. So yeah, it was a really easy decision in retrospect, but just felt right from day one.
Okay, well, back in 2009 is when you moved. What was happening in your life where you felt like I need a change and Portugal's the place?
I mean, this won't be a foreign story to people that have gone through the same thing, but for anybody that knows South Africa or knows a little bit about South Africa, it's a beautiful country. It's still part of who I am, but I got to a point in my life where I wanted a simpler life. I wanted to be in a place that was safe. I wanted to be in a place where people are good to each other. Not that people aren't in South Africa, but you kind of, it's almost like because the crime is so bad, because there's so many issues there, it's kind of like this every man for themselves kind of way. And I remember growing up in South Africa, you live in this bubble and you think that certain things and the way that you live are normal in terms of, you're living behind walls and fences and alarms, and you're always looking over your shoulder. And I remember the first time traveling to anywhere other than South Africa was as a young boy on a rugby tour, going to England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and it was the first time for a lot of us that we went overseas. And there we were. I remember very clearly in Edinburgh, walking through the streets of Edinburgh at midnight. Not we weren't supposed to be, but we were semi-drunk because we were a little bit too young to be drinking. But just the experience of being able to walk in the streets freely and not have to worry, and that was kind of the first eye-opening thing where you're like, whoa, things are different in other parts of the world. And then as you get older, when you're a young guy and you're not really, you're living more of the single life, and you look after yourself and you put up with certain things, and then you get to a certain age where you start thinking, one day I want to have a family, one day I want to have kids. Do I want to raise them in this kind of environment, or do I want to be somewhere where they're going to be safe and happy and safe walking home from school, and things like that? So I made the decision just to go for a better quality of life. I had a good job. I had a good social network in South Africa. I wasn't living in squalor or anything, but I just wanted to have a better quality of life. And sort of my first visit to Portugal, I could see that was really possible. Decided to pack up, and I always thought I'd give it a year. I said I'll give it a year and see how it goes, and now it's been 15. So it was a good move, best decision I ever made.
You gave it a decade and a half. So it's interesting to hear someone that has I guess made similar decisions as me and Kalie. It's kind of I think something that a lot of the listeners can resonate with, right? Wanting to move for, feelings of safety, but also kind of more openness and community. And it's awesome that you found it here. And I'm wondering, in your 15 years of being here, we're going to fast forward a bit. What are some of the changes that you've seen in Portugal? And is it going in a positive direction or a negative direction?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of changes. We were speaking in the interview that I did with you and Kalie about how, a lot of people didn't know where Portugal was, or that it was its own country. And yes, certainly when I came, it wasn't in vogue. It wasn't fashionable. It wasn't one of the top, 10 places that you should retire to or move to. And so it was very much a new experience. I've had a lot of family that, when I moved, they said, why the hell are you going to Portugal? And then when they come and they visit, usually it's like within a day, and they go, okay, like I get it. Like I really get it now. And so, it was very much a new territory for a lot of people, and not that fashionable for South Africans. We're used to leaving South Africa. I probably have more family now, South African family, living outside of South Africa than inside of South Africa. We're scattered all over the world.
Yes.
But a lot has changed. It's become way more popular. A lot more people know about Portugal. When I think about the Silver Coast, for the first sort of 10 years that I was here, a lot of people still didn't know about this area, even though it's so close to Lisbon and just so wonderful. It has become more well known. We've seen a lot more people looking at Portugal as a place to live. I think a big change, certainly from my side of things with my work, I'm seeing a lot more people that are looking to move to Portugal in the prime of their lives, not necessarily at the end, and not necessarily just to retire.
Yes.
It used to be mostly people that were looking for a calm place and a place to go play golf and a place to just relax at the end of their careers. But now I'm seeing so many people from all over the world who are looking to move here permanently with their kids, with families, working. COVID, I think, changed a lot of things in terms of where people can work from and how that can happen. And that's been a positive thing. Of course, with so many people looking at Portugal, that change, there are things that change along with that. Real estate prices have gone up, but that happens everywhere in the world. And then, I think you see a country now that's kind of finding its way with being a country that used to kind of just be hidden away in the shadows and getting on with their lives, to a country that's now in the mainstream, and all the challenges that come with that. It's a small country. It's a very traditional country. And I think Portugal is still coming to terms with the fact that there are so many people looking to move here and looking to come and live here, and what that entails. The thing that has never changed for me has been the people. The people are still incredibly welcoming. They don't care where you're from. They don't have a chip on their shoulder about language. So if you don't speak the language, they don't get annoyed with you. They don't make you feel bad about it. I was quite stubborn. I really pushed hard to learn the language, and just I was willing to sound like an idiot at the beginning, and sometimes still do. But I never ever was made to feel like I don't belong here or that I'm not welcome here, and that's never changed. And I think that's the beautiful thing with this country, is the people have remained exactly the same, with all the challenges, with all the changes. There's not a lot of great publicity at the moment about Portugal in the press when you talk about NHR and housing prices. But I've never heard of Portuguese people holding that against a foreigner, and going, this is your fault. You go back to where you came from. And I think that's something so beautiful. There's things that the Portuguese are not happy about, but it's more about in the way things are being governed, and changes that need to happen at a governmental level. But in terms of everyday life, it's the same as what it was when I first came. Same experience of greeting people and people being kind to each other and people asking how you're doing. I've had certain medical problems, so I've been in hospital quite a lot in Portugal, and that's always been the same. People are really caring. The system works really, really well. So yeah, besides the kind of the obvious things that change with time in terms of real estate prices and programs and golden visas and NHRs and all of those kind of things, the essence of the country has been the same. Yeah, it's positive. It's positive, and I think the way that the Portuguese embrace challenges, the way that Portuguese people try to find a better way, I think that can only be a positive thing. With all these things that are happening in the country, that some things that need to be changed, some things that need to stay the same, I think they'll find a way, and they'll find a way to accommodate anybody that comes, anybody that visits, anybody that chooses to live and call Portugal their home. And the thing that's so beautiful in my experience of the Portuguese, is they're just truly happy that you've chosen to be in their country. The question that I get asked so much is, how did a South African guy end up living in our little village or in this part of Portugal? And I always say, why wouldn't I? It's just wonderful. It's just such a beautiful place to be. And for them, it's a surprise. And then they're grateful, and they're grateful that you've chosen to be in their village or in their part of the country. And it's just a wonderful experience.
I feel like we've had such a similar experience here, and I want to take this conversation in a million directions. I feel like it's probably best if I zone in right now on something you mentioned with healthcare. You have had hospitalization here. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no problem. I've got a existing condition that I've had since I was 18 years old. It's called TTP. It's a rare blood disorder. Basically, your platelet count is very, very low. Your red blood cell count is very high, and it can be fatal if not treated. I was fortunate that I had a couple of relapses in South Africa. It was really touch and go at times. And then from 22 years old up until I was 39, I didn't have any issues. And then in 2019, I had a relapse, and I was in the hospital for 5 months in Lisbon, the main hospital in Lisbon, the public hospital in Lisbon, Santa Maria. And they saved my life, Josh. They were amazing. You hear about people saying that things are very delayed. that wasn't my experience at all. When they needed to act quickly, they acted quickly. When they needed to treat me, when they needed to get me onto machines, the medication came quickly, everything. And I mean, it was just a phenomenal experience. So, and that 5 months included a stint in ICU. I was in a coma for 2.5 weeks. It was a real mess. But even the care that I received after that was just phenomenal. And I'll always be grateful for the care that I got. And at that time, I wasn't a citizen yet. I was still a resident. So I had permanent residency, but I wasn't a citizen. And I got treated exactly the same as everybody else in my ward. Like I was a normal person, like I was one of them. And it was incredible. So yeah, I'll always be grateful for the treatment I got. If you speak to Portuguese people, they'll say to you that the medical care can be better, and there are improvements to be made for sure. But if I compare it to the type of care that I got in South Africa, I was on private healthcare in South Africa. That was the only way that I would be sure that I would get good healthcare in terms of my particular condition.
Yeah.
And here I was on public. And when I speak to South Africans about the public healthcare system there, it's a mess. When I speak to my American clients, I have an American client who's an oncologist, and he knows about my condition and the type of treatment needed. And he just said to me, Dylan, how much is this costing you? Because I was doing dialysis treatment every single day for 4 months. And I said, it's not costing me anything. And he was just like, that's insane. He said, in America, they would be coming after your house. It was just, so it was incredible. So from a medical standpoint, my kids have been born here. Amazing healthcare, amazing treatment, and then the humanity, the way that they treat you here, they embrace you. There's a warmth to the way that they look after you here, and that's something I think you can't put a price tag on it. So yeah, the healthcare for me is superb.
Yeah, I want to interject just for the listener to know that the public system here is actually more well equipped in terms of like the variety of cases that they can handle compared to the private. The private, you'll get seen faster in non-emergency situations. But yeah, making that comparison between South Africa, your experience there, and then here is wonderful for the audience to hear. But yeah,
I mean, I think something to be aware of with the public system. If it's things that are non-urgent, you can wait. So I've got they discovered like this little cyst in my nose, which is not dangerous. It's not cancerous or anything. It's just affecting a bit of my breathing, and I've been putting on a waiting list to have this removed. Now I'm still waiting. But from the things that I had before, where it was, we need to get this guy onto a dialysis machine, otherwise he's going to die, it was within 24 hours. It was just phenomenal. So from that point of view, it's superb. For things that aren't serious, you might have to wait. But yeah, in general, I mean, even just an appointment to see a doctor, that's on the day. Like you go to your local Centro Saúde where you live, it's on the day you'll get an appointment. You might have to sit and wait for 2-3 hours, but you'll be seen by somebody. So from that perspective, it's phenomenal. It's a very robust system for such a small country. It's pretty impressive.
Were you moved to Lisbon because their facilities there could handle your situation better, or did you just happen to be down there when it flared up?
No, I was in Caldas. So how it worked, I mean, this is all again 24 hours. So I wasn't feeling good. My wife said to me, let's go to the doctor. The doctor checked me out. She sent me for blood tests. I went for blood tests maybe 2 hours after my appointment with her. It wasn't even the doctor that called. The people from the lab called, the guys that did the blood tests, and they said, you need to get yourself to a hospital right away. Your bloods are in a really bad state. I went to the hospital. They checked me in. I was there for 12 hours. And then the next morning, early morning, on an ambulance to Lisbon, where they have a very good oncology center. So they sent me to Lisbon because they've got one of the best oncology centers in Europe there. And literally got there. I remember being wheeled into this hospital. It looked like a city. It's a huge hospital. For those that don't know, Santa Maria, it's massive. And I just remember looking from my gurney, like seeing this huge building. And then literally it was a case of one doctor saw me and they said, okay, we're going to get you into your ward, and then in a little while we're going to get you onto dialysis. And it was within 2-3 hours I had pipes in my neck on a machine. The next morning woke up in good care, and it was phenomenal how quick it was. But yeah, they moved me for medical reasons. They've moved me to Santa Maria.
Okay, because that's something that is not that uncommon to hear about, at least from the people I've spoken with that live here in Portugal. So we've talked a little bit about, or you've alluded a little bit about what you do here. You're a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been a realtor the whole time that you've been living in Portugal? Tell us about what you do in real estate.
Yeah. So day one, that's where I started. That was the work that I started doing when I got here. I started from the beginning, really learned as much as I could quickly. Always been working with foreign clients. So my clients are from all over the world. I've got clients that are from Poland, from the US, from the UK, from Belgium, the Netherlands, Sweden, random places like Armenia, just people from all over the world. So for the last 15 years, that's what I've been doing, is introducing people to this amazing country and helping them find a home here. Okay.
And what are some trends that you've seen in real estate over the past 15 years? Because that's kind of a long historical line of data that you've seen. So what are some trends that you've seen?
Well, I mean, besides the obvious, obviously over time, the prices have gone up. If I remember going back to 15 years ago, what you could get for your money compared to today is changed considerably. But that's always been quite steady, especially the area that I'm in. It's not Lisbon, it's not Porto, it's not the Algarve. It's a smaller marketplace. So that's different it's difficult to compare to those places. But so the obvious one is obviously that the change in costs. In terms of, we specialize in new build.
Okay.
And in modern properties, just because from a insulation point of view and energy efficiency point of view, these are properties that are more user friendly. So I've seen a lot more people that I've sort of given up on the romantic idea of, let me buy an old farmhouse and let me rather get something that I don't have to maintain all the time and that I don't have to fix up all the time, that's going to look after itself, that's a little bit more low maintenance, that's more energy efficient. The energy efficiency thing has become a huge factor, certainly in the last 2-3 years.
Absolutely.
If we think of our Northern European clients, their energy bills are through the roof in terms of heating, and things like that. And now you come in, the climate helps, but when you've got a property that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to maintain temperature, that keeps itself warm, that isn't difficult to heat or moderate, that makes a huge difference. Then I think just again the demographic has changed a lot. So going from, like I said earlier, going from retirees to now people that are in the prime of their careers, starting families. I've had clients that have moved here, started families. I've had clients that have moved here with little kids. I have clients that have moved here while they're in the middle of their careers. That's changed certainly over the last 15 years to previously it was a golfing destination. Previously it was a place that people wanted to come and retire and play some golf and go to the beach and enjoy the good food and the good wine.
Yeah. But those things haven't changed. There's still good golf there. There's still good restaurants.
Yeah, those things are still there. But I think what's changed from the point of view of people looking is people are looking for different things to what they were maybe looking 15 years ago,
Right.
And I think the world's opened up for people. Again, we mentioned it earlier, COVID has taught people that they can work from anywhere. And I think now people are looking with a more long-term view, not just, hey, I want a place to holiday, but now Portugal has become a place where people want to live, and that's that's been a big shift since I moved. I mean, if I think about the clients that I had when I first started working, they were all looking for a holiday home, and now a good 50-60% of my clients are looking for a permanent home.
Okay.
And that's been a big change. So people are now looking not just as a place that I'm going to visit 3 or 4 times a year, but a place that I'm going to live. And those questions are different.
Sure.
What's it
Absolutely.
like to live here? Where's the schools,
What are
the
the
medical
schools?
questions
Yep.
that you asked about? These kind of things all become a bigger factor. So we've almost gone from real estate advisors, but also to lifestyle advisors. Like,
Sure.
what is it like to live here? Are you going to be happy here? How can you integrate? How can you navigate? And that's been quite a big shift.
Well, I think your podcast also facilitates that as well. Okay, let me ask you this: a new build in your neck of the woods, Silver Coast, what's the price range on something? Let's say that's 100 square meters, so like 1,100 square feet.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I'll divide it up between apartments versus a house. So
Sure.
apartments for a new build apartment, you're looking at starting prices at about 270,000,
Okay.
and villas starting prices at 350
Okay.
euro.
And how does that compare to buying something that's secondhand? So something that's like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years old, not something that's like in ruin that you're having to redo.
Yeah. I mean, this is a broader question. So
Sure.
first of all, let's say if it's a used property that's maybe under 10 years old, the property's still in relatively good condition. It hasn't started losing value because of the age of the house.
Yeah.
It's, especially if it's something that's been built in the last 10 years, usually the quality is still pretty good in terms of insulation, double glazed windows, all of that kind of thing. It's important, for American listeners, or actually from UK as well, things like that. We build with brick and concrete here. So a lot of the thing that happens with our American clients, when I tell them it takes a year to build a house, they think that's quite a long time.
Sure.
But we build with brick and concrete. So it's sturdy materials. The house is supposed to last a long time. But certainly if it's a house that you're buying that's a resale, you are paying somebody else's price for that house. It's a value that an owner has put onto that house for various reasons, either because they want to make a profit, either because they have an emotional attachment to the house. They think it's worth more than what it maybe is. That's something that you have to be aware of when you're buying something that's a resale property.
We just got hit with that.
Yeah. Whereas when you're buying something new from a builder, you're paying for the bricks and the concrete, and you're paying that guy's
the cost
price
of,
that he's,
yeah.
So you're not paying a price that kind of somebody's hoping to get for that property.
Is arbitrary, right?
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, I must say, I have clients that put, they'll come and they say, I want to sell my property after 8 years, and the value that they want to put on it is fair. And we try to advise and say, hey, listen, this is what I think it's worth in the current market. And then you have others that will put a ridiculous amount on a property, and because that's what they want to get for it. And in some cases they do, in some cases they don't. And then from a technical point of view, the reality of buying new, you're buying something that's been built to the latest spec, the latest tech. It's good condition. It's usually got guarantees on it from a builder, things like that. Whereas when you're buying secondhand, you're buying it as is. And if it's of a certain age, you can still be quite sure that there's not going to be too many major issues. If you're buying something that's 50 to 100 years old, you're going in a little bit blind. You don't know what's in the walls. You don't know if there's any other issues. You don't know how many.
By knowing there's issues.
What's that?
By knowing there's issues.
Yeah, you're buying knowing there's issues, but you don't know what those issues are going to be and how much it's going to cost you in the long run. So those are the challenges.
Yeah, we just had an incident where we're doing this real estate development, and part of common courtesy before you start the demolition is to send letters to the neighbors, letting them know, going in and taking photographs of shared walls and stuff like that. And one of the neighbors said, hey, we would be interested in selling. So we had a meeting yesterday to figure out what their price was, because they hadn't set a price. So the meeting starts and they still didn't say a price, and said, we don't really know what the price is. Well, as the meeting continued, 10, 15 minutes later, I need to first say their building size is 100 square meters, and it's basically 50 square meters on the ground floor and 50 basement. And and they announced that they would like to get 600,000 for it. So for the listener, quick math, that's 6,000 per square a meter. And right now in the luxury market, that's like at the top end. Like that's at the top end. If you're in Porto, for example, and you're in Aliados, which is the metro area where we have City Hall and kind of the real downtown nice area to live, you have some new luxury apartments going up that are anywhere between 45 and 6,500. And that's a finished luxury product. And this person's selling something that is in pretty rough condition, or wanting to sell something in pretty rough condition for the same price. So it was an emotional thing for that person, which was not good.
Or opportunistic, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So how can people reach out to you on kind of the real estate side of things? We're not wrapping up here, but I'm just asking if people want to know and understand more about what you could do in the Silver Coast. How can people reach out to you about that?
Yeah, so you can check out our website is portugal-realty.com.
Okay.
And there you've got loads of information about the area, about the location. That's the most important thing when you're looking to buy something in anywhere. Especially for people that are coming into a country that they don't know. It's really important that you're dealing with people that know the location, that know the ins and outs, that know what it's like to live there. So we've got a lot of location information, which is just as important as the property side of things as well. And then they can check out the type of real estate that we have available as well in the area.
Okay, cool. So another thing that you do is a podcast, and I'm pretty sure you've got the deepest Portugal podcast on the internet, which is Portugal the Simple Life. I think you've got the most episodes out of, like, deepest episodes, at least. Like, you talk to a lot of foreigners. You have had Portuguese people on your podcast. What started this podcast for you, and what's 2024 look like for you?
Yeah, so the podcast started in 2020. It was a passion project for me. I felt that, I guess it was sort of the beginning of the wave. Now, if you go onto YouTube, there's every guy and his dog doing videos about Portugal. But I wanted to develop a platform where people can have an insider's perspective into Portugal. So I wanted to speak to people, both foreigners and Portuguese, about what life in Portugal is like. And I think a lot of this had to do with the shift in people looking. So we're going from people that are not just looking to come and spend 2 or 3 times a year here, but looking to live here. The questions are, like we mentioned earlier, the questions are different, and what people are asking and wanting to know about a place are different.
Yes.
And I think I wanted to just give people an insider's perspective into all things Portugal. So not just real estate, but what life is like here. How am I going to be welcomed here? What is the medical? What's happening on a medical side of things? What's happening politically? What about the food? What about the wine? All of these kind of things that, people needed to know more about in order to know, is this a place I'm going to live? Because once again, it's coming down to the location. And in my experience, it was, not just, hey, I want a nice apartment on a resort. Certainly for we know about the Algarve, but where we are on the Silver Coast, what people are looking for is, okay, I want my nice modern home, but I want to be in the village. I want to be part of the community. I want to be near the farmer's market. I want to go for a walk and go have a cafe. I want to learn the language. I want to integrate. And it was all about how possible that is. And I think also just sincerely just sharing my love for the country. Like, it's a place that's become my home. It's a place that I could not imagine now living anywhere else other than Portugal. It's a place that has welcomed me, and I wanted to share that, and I wanted to share the beautiful things. It is a very positive podcast. We talk about mostly the good things, but there's stuff that comes up, of course, that people need to know about. And So that's how it started. We started during COVID, so a lot of people had time to hook up on Zoom and to talk. And we've had some amazing guests. I mean, musicians,
Rugby
very
players.
well-known soccer players, fashion designers, as well as local foreign people that are doing some exceptional, interesting things here. So winemakers, doctors, chefs. I mean, it's just been an amazing journey, and not looking to stop it anytime soon. So stay tuned. 2024, more of the same. With more guests and more stories and more about what life is like in Portugal. And like we mentioned earlier on, Portugal is at a bit of a crossroads in terms of some of the challenges that are coming its way because of a lot of foreign investment, because of a lot of people coming in, but also that this is still an amazing place to live, and that's the purpose is for people to know what the essence and the true sense of this country really is about.
Nice. And you chose Portugal the Simple Life as a name. Is there a specific reason why you chose that?
We were, yeah. So I mean, the guy that I'm going to give credit to this to the name, I've actually invited him to be on the podcast, and he never got back to me. So, but we were at a seminar, myself and my boss, in going back 2019, I think it was. So, 2018 maybe, I can't remember. It was before we started the podcast, and there was a guy who got up. It was one of these e-marketing seminars. I slept through a lot of it. It was pretty boring. And then a guy got up at the end of the thing and he spoke. He's a big marketing guy. He's a Portuguese guy, but lived in America for a long time. And he did a lot of big marketing for big brands like Nike and Dove soap and these kind of things. And he was talking about, your brand. And, he was talking about countries. He was saying, the Italians are famous for their pasta and the French are famous for their cuisine with the sauce and all of these kind of things. And my boss got up at the time and said, what is Portugal's best export? And he said, Portugal's best export is simplicity. We've been perfecting simplicity for generations. And he used the illustration of the food and how we grill fish, like we just take a good piece of fish, we put some olive oil, we put it on the grill, and but the simple life. So the simple life came about that life is just simple here. And when I say simple, I mean, it's calm, it's safe. Food is important. Being around a table with family is important. You, me, and Kalie were talking about how how those little interactions, those mini interactions, are so beautiful, but so pure and then so rare in today's world. It's rare that you go into a cafe and everybody says hello. In today's world, it's rare that people know who you are. It's rare that you go into a restaurant in today's world and they're not trying to get you off the table to turn tables, that you can sit in a restaurant for 3 hours with your family and just have a great meal and a couple of bottles of wine and talk. And that was, that's the simple life. The simple life is the way people treat each other here, the way that people accommodate you, the way that people still care about community as opposed to the individual, which in the end is really good for the individual as well. Simple life, because Portugal gives you a simple and a beautiful life.
Nice. Well said. Earlier you said that you've been here for 15 years and you don't see yourself living anywhere else but Portugal. So at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. How has living abroad transformed your life?
Great question. I want to make sure I say this in the right way, because everyone talks about the pace of life in Portugal, and that almost can sometimes come across as it's a place that lacks ambition or a place that lacks forward thinking. And it's not that. I do see a country that wants to have a future, that wants to create, that wants to, you look at some of the stuff that Portugal's doing on the tech scene and the medical scene, it's phenomenal work. And again, some of the guests that are on the podcast, you just like the work that some of these guys are doing is just out of this world, but they have this balance to life here, which I think is so wonderful. I mean, to give an example, when I worked in Johannesburg, you didn't have lunch. Like, you grabbed a sandwich, you between meetings, you'd eat at your desk. You'd stop off and go through a drive-through, and
our American audience can resonate to that.
Yeah. Sure. And here you stop for lunch. You take the time. The first time that I had a work colleague that said, "Come, let's go have lunch," I said, "No, it's fine. I'm just going to eat at my desk." They said, "No, we don't do that here." And they're like, "No, we stop." And you go and you take an hour for lunch, and you don't talk about work. You sit and you talk about soccer, or here they call it football. You talk about what you're going to have for dinner. You talk about, food is such a central part. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is just being able to enjoy just those things that, we would say they're the little things, but they're not the little things in the end. They're the things that enrich and make you appreciate life. I think Portugal's taught me to be grateful. I think back to my life in South Africa. I don't regret anything. I don't miss it, but I never look back and go, I hated that. And there's even parts of the life that I had there that I'm grateful for. But I think Portugal's taught me gratitude, like to stop and to appreciate, to stop and taste your food, to stop and have a coffee. And it's not a coffee, it's a coffee and a chat. And it's a coffee and a chat with whoever's there, or the guy behind the counter, or the people that walk in. And I think that's what Portugal's taught me, is just to stop and to enjoy the things that we should have access to in life, being safe, being able to have a conversation about pretty much anything without it becoming an argument. You look at other parts of the world where everybody's just so pissed off with each other and with the state, and the animosity between that, for American listeners, the animosity that I know about between Republicans and Democrats. And then you go to the UK and they're just so upset with the present state of affairs because of Brexit and because of what's happening in their government. And then you come to Portugal and nobody's really happy with what's happening with our political situation. We don't have a prime minister at the moment, but that never spills out into interaction that people have with each other. And I think Portugal's changing in the terms of being aware of your community, being aware of each other, being aware of not only what's happening here, but what's happening everywhere else in the world. And that translates out to being grateful for what we have here. And it's just taught me to have balance. Like, I never stopped in Johannesburg. You're constantly running, chasing your tails, making dust for no real reason. That's not going to matter tomorrow. And here you're coming to a place where it's almost like the things that matter are the things that matter, how you treat each other. Are you safe? Do my kids go to a good school? Are my kids safe if they're playing in the street? And are people good to each other? And Portugal's made me realize that, and it's a wonderful, soul enriching experience.
Well, speaking of grateful, Dylan, we're grateful to have you on our podcast.
Likewise,
we
thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. And listener, if you'd like to have Dylan back on, because we did not extract enough from him in the past 45 minutes, his 15 years here, let us know. Reach out to us and leave us a review and let us know if you want Dylan back on. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.